Hello, my name is Shane, and this is a video for introducing my YouTube channel as well as my Superprof profile for online STEM grinds. So I'll firstly quickly introduce myself. So I'm Shane, and the main way that I teach is through a method known as inquiry-based. So plenty of questions when we're revising stuff in the grinds. I achieved a H1 in 4 subjects: maths, physics, applied maths and geography, though more importantly the maths, physics and applied maths for the case of the online STEM grinds. Geography not so much. And I was also one of very few people in the country to achieve a 100% a perfect score on the Leaving Cert maths paper that I sat. Now generally I teach maths, physics, applied maths and science online, and I'm currently working to get computer science and chemistry at Leaving Cert level onto this repertoire of mine. More specific details will be on the next slide. However, the most important thing to note is that I build a case of understanding rather than just rote learning answers. I want to make sure a concept makes sense to you rather than just you having to blurt a definition, for example, just on the Leaving Cert paper at the end of the day. I want to make sure that it's sensical what we're covering. So more specific details about the levels and subjects that I offer. At junior cycle, I do junior cycle maths and science, maths at higher ordinary, and junior cycle science at the common level. Leaving cert maths, physics, and applied maths at all available levels, as well as GCSE and A-level mathematics on specifically the AQA board. Note that this also includes AS mathematics, as it's sort of the equivalent of ordinary level. So if you're part of OCR or Pearson at Excel, then I'm not so familiar with your particular specifications to be of any use. Note as well that, as I mentioned currently, I'm working on Leaving Cycle Chemistry and Computer Science at the minute at both levels, as well as particularly GCSE and A-level further mathematics, again with the AQA board. So again, Pearson and OCR, I don't have much for that. Also do note that I forgot to include here that I also do IB, so the International Baccalaureate Mathematics, only for a limited set of people. So I want to discuss a little bit just on my approach for going through grind lessons. So one thing I'm not going to do is overload you with a crap load of information during the grinds, because I know of some grinds teachers who try to cram like 2 or 3 chapters into a single grind session, which I think is absolutely ludicrous. But I'm not going to do some cognitive overload, and because of the fact that it's one-on-one or small groups, I will be able to break down any concepts or calculations at a pace that suits you rather than a pace that suits 28 different people. Now, I also utilize simulations and real-world examples. So even this simulation of Hooke's law, showing that it is a case of simple harmonic motion for the case of A-level further maths and Leaving Cert physics. I also use a tool called PHET or PHET that's used for most of my physics classes, just to properly motivate a physical concept. As well as if anyone doesn't have a physical lab that they can use, there's a couple of inbuilt labs in PHET. One thing else I don't do is that I'm not a presentation kind of person. Note that in my physics playlists, yes, they're all presentations, but that whole physics playlist needs a complete revamp because I'm planning on changing it. So I actually motivate things essentially just off knowledge, as well as a Microsoft OneNote that I use, which, speaking of, is one of the things you get in my grind sessions. So the main things that I have in the grind session are, firstly, either one-on-one or group grinds. Now, group grinds is limited to 10 people per slot. So in total, there should be only 11 people in the meetings whenever we're doing group sessions. And within that, you will get an hour of focused study. Now, the group grinds, it is unfortunately a bit more like 50 minutes because of the fact with Google Meets I have to start effectively 5 minutes early to get the full hour or the full set of content and finish up in time. But still, it'll either be 50 minutes or an hour worth of focused study. And after the first paid lesson, you'll get a complete set of notes on this Microsoft OneNote that I have for each individual subject, whether it be maths, physics, applied maths, or science at any level. In each of the OneNotes, I have sets of worked examples to cover all ways, or nearly all the ways, that examiners can ask questions, as well as how to prepare and strategize the different exams, coming from someone who got 4 H1s and 800% in Leaving Cert Maths. As well, note that I also make customized exam papers for extra study. It usually consists of 2 exams in each of the topics. So, for example, I have one entirely on Leaving Cert inferential statistics. I also have some on, say, circular motion in physics or collisions in applied maths. I have full-on exam papers for those. And note, my email hours are from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, Monday to Sunday. And this also includes the times that I'm going to do grinds. So the earliest I have grind slots is 9 in the morning, and all the grinds have to finish up before 9 p.m. So the latest you can get a slot is from 8 till 9 p.m., which are of a limited supply. Now, this is effectively a list of comparisons between traditional teaching, which I've gotten from a small sample of my population of students, comparing their teaching, or the teaching that they get in their school, versus how I teach. So a couple of main things to note here is traditional teaching, you have a thing called death by PowerPoint, which is just the teacher droning on at a monotone level, reading over PowerPoints, constant note-taking, no real group discussions, and a lot of stuff just focused on taking notes and remembering the notes, rather than trying to make the concept intuitive to the students. Now, with my style, all of it's done through OneNote, so I'm not just reading off presentations because I presume you can read by this point. There's not really much for note-taking and plenty of discussion time in the case of the group sessions. The main thing I want to point out is that we're building inquiry and intuition. So if you want to be a somewhat successful mathematician or scientist of any kind, then you need to be inquisitive. So asking questions in my classes is very much encouraged. And through my degree, I also had time to focus on voice projection and tonality to make sure that my speaking ability is as clear and coherent as possible, though sometimes I may stumble. One thing to note about the lessons is that don't feel forced to send on information beforehand if you don't want to. Okay, if you feel like you only really know what you want to work on as soon as the lesson begins, that's totally okay. Lessons will adapt in real time. So don't feel pressured to email me exam questions or notes at any time. It always helps, but don't feel pressured that you have to. Now, everyone loves a good stats report. So on the Superprof website, I have an average rating of 4.8 out of 5 stars. And from a sample of 20 students, I made their chosen subject more enjoyable for 18 of them. And even with the 2 of them, because I have it written on a tablet beside me, that it only made it slightly better. So not necessarily so much more enjoyable. Note that the biggest grade increase I got was from a student who came in and got 7% in their Leaving Cert Maths mock. And I bumped them up to a H4. Now, albeit this was from the mock, so this would have been March of 2 years ago. But it's just a comparison that no matter what grade you come in, I can always get an improvement for anyone. And the mean grade increases are here. So JC Maths, the mean grade increase is 18. LC Maths, the mean grade increase is 23. Physics is 35. And Applied Maths is 24. So on average, that comes out to a bit just over 2 grades. So if you came with a H6, the expected improvement is a H4. However, the grinds do help, but just ensure that you do excess work outside of the grinds hours. So here is an example of some workings that I did for students, particularly on trigonometry. Note that each of the steps is broken out. Now, it is slightly cut off just with the way that this presentation is worked. It's clear from that I don't do presentations very well. So note that each of these steps is done in succession. Each of the arrows indicate a new step, so it's clear that this leads to this, leads to this, leads to this, and so on. And each individual step is labeled there in case you're ever confused on how I get to the final answer. Now, final little bits of detail. There are limited slots as of the minute. So right now, as I'm recording this, it is the 23rd of April, and there's only 3 slots available. So do inquire if you would like a slot. And as soon as you message, we will get started on the next available time that I have of a particular slot. The contact details, you can go directly through Superprof if you're looking at this on the website. So you can click in. I'm not sure what the button says exactly. I'm pretty sure it says request tutor. So you go in through the website and you can contact me there. Do note, I think Superprof does charge a fee for finding me as a tutor. So do just be aware of that. We can go off the website if it gets too expensive or suits you better. You can contact me through email, which is linked on my YouTube page or on the Superprof site. Now note that these are 2 different emails. And unfortunately, I no longer accept carrier pigeons. So, if you would like STEM grinds, contact me.